target is your one-time graded learning targets. These are going to be completed in class. These are based on completion of tasks teachers ask of you. They're never assessed on your spiral tests. And if you're absent on the day of coverage of one of these learning targets, it is your responsibility to make it up. Makeup must be done within 2 weeks of when the learning target was completed in class to receive credit. Otherwise, a 0 will be permanently placed in the gradebook. So here's an example of one unit. I believe this is still Unit 4 that I'm seeing here. These are the one-time graded learning targets that you saw in the unit of study previously in the video. These again are not going to be on your tests. These are just in-class things that have to be completed based on the Common Core standards. So if you complete it in class, then you will receive credit for it, and it will show that in the gradebook. So I'm just going to give you a minute to read through of how you are graded in geometry. So as you can see, the learning targets are going to be 80% of your grade. Each one of those learning targets is going to be out of 4 in the gradebook. If you're proficient, remember you're only going to get a 3 out of 4. If you're above proficiency, you will receive a 4 out of 4. There may be other in-class assignments that will go into the gradebook. It may be a project, it may be a quiz, it may be homework. It may be some teachers have required students to create a notebook. Maybe that will be part of that grade as well. That is the category where all of that will fit in. You'll also have a final exam at the end of the trimester. This is cumulative, and the goal of this exam is to measure your retention of the range of topics that we have covered in that course that trimester. This will be 10% of your grade. Now, this yellow box here may not be for all of the teachers in geometry. Each geometry teacher has a different philosophy on homework, so this may not be right towards your class. So just make sure that you check with your teacher about that before you read into that. So in the system, how do you get an A? For example, student number 1, if you look at this, let's say in this example, we have a total of 12, 18, 24, 32 learning targets total in this trimester. So for an A student, they have to have a minimum of 19 learning targets. That's above 50%. So around 60% of all learning targets need to be shown at a 4 level or proficiency plus level. So if you are the student that is just okay with getting a 3 each time, that's not going to work. You're not going to get an A that way. In order to get an A, you have to go above and beyond. You have to complete those proficiency plus questions, and you have to do them correctly in order to get those 4s. You will not have any learning target scores of 2, and all of your learning targets will be at least a 3, mostly 4s. Remember also that your final exam and your in-class assignments will also be calculated into the grade, but I don't know how much that is going to affect your final grade. Here's an example of a B student. Again, we'll still have those 32 learning targets. In this case, you have to have a minimum of 7 proficiency plus. So look at the difference between 19 and 7. So if you really want that A, you got to go above and beyond. If you want the B, you still have to go above and beyond, but you don't have to go as much above and beyond. That's about 20% of all the trimester's learning targets. So your learning target scores are going to be made up a rare score of 2, mostly 3s, and a few 4s. For a C student, your student will go above and beyond on a very few of those trimester learning targets. Your student's grade is an average understanding of geometry. Your learning target scores are made up of a rare score of 4 and about half and half between 2s and 3s. A D student, the student rarely goes above and beyond for all trimester learning targets. Student's grade is a below average understanding of geometry. Learning target scores are made up of a rare score of 4, if any, a few 3s, and it's going to be mostly 2s and 0s. And an F student rarely goes above and beyond for all trimester learning targets. Learning target scores are made up of a rare score of 4, a rare score of 3, some 2s, and the majority of the gradebook is going to be made up of 0s. Again, like I said, homework is different for each one of our geometry teachers here at Kennedy, so please ask them what their policy is. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about homework. The main thing about homework is it is practice. The idea of homework is going to help you transfer your short-term memory into long-term memory. It's very important that you complete your homework, as it still will be tracked and reported in PowerSchool. Now, the whole idea about reassessments. Why? If you aren't happy with the score on one or more of your learning targets, will you be able to show the teacher that you have a better understanding at a different period of time in that trimester? Of course. This is why the reassessment process comes in. So when should you start thinking about reassessment? Reassessment should start to occur after a student has been tested 2 times, or that skill has shown up twice on the test. So let's flip back to this page quick. Remember those 3 scenarios that we talked about earlier. Right here, after the second time, a student has scored a 1 and a student has scored a 2. So currently, after this second test, that student is not going to be proficient. Okay, so we could still assume that it's going to show up one more time. So after that third time, if that student had gotten a 1, they would have had 2 1s and a 2. They would have not been proficient. So I would suggest that they would start coming in for a reassessment, or they'd fill out a reassessment request. In this case right here, we have a 2 1 1. That means that the student's understanding has not been developed strong enough to become proficient in that skill. So after that third time of getting a 1, I would suggest that they start filling out the request form, coming in for the tutorials and getting some extra help on that skill. And that's when the reassessment could occur. Again, this will be discussed more in class after the second test is given. Think of reassessment as this. It's the same concept for professionals. Many professionals are not allowed to take the ACT, the SAT, or the driver's license test only one time. If you fail it the first time, you can go and take it a second. If you fail it the second, you can go back and take it a third. So why can't we do that in our courses here at Kennedy? Well, that's the same ideas that we're going to be incorporating in geometry. After the second or third time you still haven't shown me, but you know that you can learn it, why not show me at a different or a later time? Now, there still is going to be a deadline of when you can show me. It will be 2 weeks prior to the end of the trimester, but we are not going to punish you for not learning it right away. You will have a little bit more time to show me that you have learned that material. So how do we reassess? What do you need to do? You need to fill out a reassessment request form, and that will be shown to you in your classroom. Complete the original homework assignment that was assigned for that learning target if it has not been completed already. Correct mistakes on your original test. Work on additional problems that will be listed on Canvas. You'll have to journal and reflect over 2 to 3 questions that are listed on the request form as well. Reassessment requests need to be pre-approved by the teacher at least 2 days prior to when you want to reassess. You will not be taking the same test, but you will be given a new problem, and you may only take one learning target per day. The most important thing that you must remember about reassessment is that if you are not happy with your grade, you need to get your retakes completed at least 2 weeks prior to the final exam. Anything after 2 weeks prior to the final exam will not be accepted. If they are not done in this time frame, your learning target grade will not change for your final.